Right, so I'm actually expecting some participants from the main campus to be with us here. So that's why I've set up the room here to cater for the ones who are joining us from UG and the ones joining us here. But it seems like nobody is here from Penang. So I'm just going to leave the setup like this first. If nobody turns up here physically, then I will just focus on my screen only. Okay, can you hear me loud and clear? You need me to turn up the volume?
Very clear, very clear.
Can, clear. Crystal clear.
Can you say again?
Crystal clear.
Yes, clear, clear.
Okay, cool, very good. Awesome. Okay, so let's get started. I should be expecting more, but I think if we wait anymore, it's already 9:05, so we shall start. So welcome everyone to, I think this is the second round of our this series for this training. I think this is the second or the third one in the series, if I'm not wrong, right? Maybe I'm sure you have attended the first one on what is OBE, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, good.
The principle, yes.
Yeah, the principle is great. So how much do you remember about that session? Can you remember? So we're going to do a little bit of a review afterwards, just to get you to recall some of the important things in the principle, because it's linked to whatever we're going to do today. Okay, so before I start, I see actually quite a few new names that I've not seen before. Some I've seen before. So I think it's only good that I introduce myself. Yeah. My name is Michelle, and I am based in the Penang campus, both the Georgetown as well as the Batu Kawan campus. So I'm sure you've heard, we've just officially launched the Batu Kawan campus like after 2 long years of waiting, because of the pandemic, things have been delayed and delayed. So really happy to have finally actually launching, and also hoping to see some of you here to come over and visit the campus. Right. So I am from the Department of Languages, and just recently this year, I have also adopted another one, which is Center for Pre-University Studies. So I am leading both departments at the moment. Apart from managing academic programs and all, I also teach. Basically, my discipline is English, and also in terms of education. So that's why I'm also highly involved in teaching and learning, and also conducting trainings for internal staff and also externally for other institutions. Right, so that's a little bit about me. So shall we just go, since there are so few of us, I think it's really good that we kind of like take 2 minutes for each other to introduce yourself. You want to turn on your camera too. Anyone would like to start?
Hello, hi, good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Okay, I hope you guys can hear me clearly. So my name is Azwa. I am from SHTCA, School of Hotel and Tourism and Culinary Arts in Glen Marie.
Nice to meet you, Azwa. I'm not sure if I've sent you an email wrongly before or not. You have one Azwa. I think I did. Yeah, I think you sent this wrong Azwa. We have so many colleagues now that you know. quite the same. And just like between myself and Mitchell, many times emails supposed to be intended for me goes to Mitchell, or emails that is intended for Mitchell, it comes to me. Yeah, it's not that sort of thing. Oh, nice to see you finally as well. Thank you for coming. Okay, right. Can we have the next person? The Yok Ling, is it?
Hi, I'm here, Michelle. Right. Can you see me?
No.
No. Yeah, because I'm using my phone data, I think there will be a problem when I open my webcam. Right.
I see, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So where
I think that's all. Yeah, I'm from SHTCA, Grand Mary campus.
I see, okay. So what courses do you teach?
Accounting and quantitative methods.
Oh, interesting. So
Yeah.
you are from HNT, but you are your discipline is more to business related courses?
Yes, correct.
Okay, nice to meet you. I think I don't think I've met you before. And I don't think I have you in my sessions before previously.
Yeah.
So this is the
Nice to
first
meet you
time.
too. Yeah, first time.
Nice to meet you. Okay, can we have another person?
Hello, Michelle. Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
I turn on my camera.
Yes, I can see you.
Can you see me? I already turned on my camera.
Yeah, I can. Yes.
Okay. All right. So my name is Nurhaiza. Okay, I'm from SHTCA as well. So 3 of us is from SHTCA. Okay. Currently, I'm teaching tourism subject majoring, and I also teaching research. So I have 2 different paths here: research and tourism. Yeah. So I think that's all.
Research.
I haven't. Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Okay.
Thank you very much and nice meeting you, Nohanza.
Okay, you too. Nice meeting you.
Okay, do we have anyone else from HSDCA? Anyone would like to introduce yourself?
Well,
Hi.
hi, can you see me? Hi, I'm Sing Ping. I'm from PEC office, Grand Mary, and I am teaching ACCA Advanced Taxation.
Okay. Right. Thank you. Nice meeting you. So who else do we have here?
Morning.
Hi, Stephanie.
Okay. Right. Good morning, everyone. Hi, Michelle.
Hi.
I'm from UG campus, from SCCA. Teaching-wise, a few subjects are basically marketing subjects and entrepreneurships and all that.
Marketing.
Yeah, mainly marketing subjects.
I see. Okay, thank you so much.
All right.
So who else do we have in my list here? Siti Intan. Siti Intan, would you like to introduce yourself? Oh, okay. So another person from HSCCA in culinary. Right, nice meeting you, Intan. Okay, we have Waylon.
Hi, Michelle. Can you guys hear me?
Yep, I can hear you, but
Hi. Yeah, my line is not so good today, so it's a bit difficult for me to on my cam.
all right.
Yeah,
No.
it's a bit laggy. Yeah. So I'm Jalen. I'm from the UG campus. From SCCA as well. I'm teaching the photography subjects, my area.
You're teaching again, sorry, I can't hear you.
Photography subjects.
Photography.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. From hospitality, but you're teaching the
No, I'm from SCCA.
oh,
I'm from
SCCA. Okay, SCCA. All right. So I was thinking SCCA. Okay, thank you. Photography. Nice course, yeah. Right, thanks for the introduction, Baden. And we have another one which just joined us in YP Poon. Would you like to introduce yourself, YP Poon?
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Michelle.
Hello.
Yeah, this is Karen. I'm from SOB.
Karen. SOB.
Yes. Can hear me or not? Because this computer, the voice system is not so clear one.
I can hear you loud and clear.
Oh, okay. That's good.
So what do you teach?
I teach business subject.
Such as?
Marketing, management.
Marketing and management.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you, Karen.
What?
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Yeah.
Thank you for the introduction.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think so in total we have 8 of you, right? 8 of you minus Lao Chun, who's here to just make sure that I am conducting the session, I believe. Okay, so welcome again to this session. Decided to turn off the other camera already because since I'm going to be here alone in this room, nobody from Penang is coming. Okay, so today's session is really building on the principles that we have learned previously with video on OBE, outcome-based learning. Okay, and specifically today we're going to look at learning outcomes. Right, let me go back to the slides. Okay, so before we begin, I'd like you to share with us what has been your best achievement so far in 2022. Can you take a moment to think about the last 6 months? So already half the year gone. What has been your best achievement in this last 6 months? Anybody like to share? We go around the list again. Or maybe I should start first. Okay, I think so far for me, the best achievement in the last 6 months is I'm not sure whether should I count like being the recipient of the Teaching Excellence Award as an achievement in the last 6 months, because that was actually an evaluation that was done in 2021 but was only awarded in 2022. But that kind of like summarize things that I have been doing over my last few years of teaching, but not just entirely confined to my 6 months. But if I were to just look at the last 6 months, I think it would be my best achievement, I would say, would be being able to manage 2 departments thus far. Being able to wake up every day and maintain my motivation and to still stay determined to what I love to do, which is teaching and learning, and also helping students and staff to grow academically and personally and also professionally. Right, so over to you. I'd like to invite, maybe let's start from the bottom. Karen, would you like to share with us?
Michelle, I have problem to how to enlarge the screen actually.
Touch the screen.
Yeah, because this computer I'm not so familiar with. I just changed with another one because a lot of problems with my computer. I think for my best achievement so far, I was able to complete 99% of the ODL subject from marketing.
That's good.
Yeah, and also I like some of the templates that you have created. Some are very interesting, like the unicorn, you know, and I probably need to learn from you how to create some interesting things like graphics over there.
Oh, great. I'm glad that it has been put to good use.
Yeah, that's right. At first, I find it difficult, but after I have done like the 2 to 3 topic, is okay already.
Awesome. Awesome. Great job. Great job. Feel free to just, drop me an email or if you want any session or just to
Yeah, I think
chat.
if I can, I have, because I need to submit for review already. If I can have additional time to add more elements to make it interesting, I think that would be great.
Yep. Sure. You can just write to me and maybe share.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. Great. Okay. That must be. I can imagine. That definitely must be one of the best achievements because I remember my whole of last year, especially last year, was really focused on micro credentials and developing all these online courses that if you were to ask me last year what was my best achievement, I think doing all those projects was one of the best achievements, and I had a lot of fun doing it as well with the team. So I'm glad. Well, now you, some of you are also doing it. So great job. Hey, can we have the next person, Valen? Start teaching in the master's program this semester. Okay, so it's your first time teaching the master's program. Okay, awesome. Good one. Stephanie?
Yes, Michelle.
Hi, Stephanie. Can you share with us what has been your best achievement so far in 2022?
No, I thought there's another Stephanie. All right, okay. Best achievement in 2022. I guess it's the challenge that is actually being assigned to teach master students.
Okay, so you have also just started teaching the master's student.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's actually a cool thing, yeah. Because I find that they're actually more mature. And when I assign something to ask them to read, they actually do come back and do the work. It's unlike the others, bachelor students and all that, right? So, yeah.
Different age, different maturity level.
Yeah, that's right.
Great, okay. So for Raylan and Stephanie, it's about teaching the master's program. Okay, great. Thank you. So can we hear from Intan?
Hi, I'm Intan. Yes, I'm teaching culinary, major in pastry. Already 6 years in this UOW, and as well I'm taking my degree as well. I'm also a student in my school. That's it.
So what has been your best achievement so far in the last 6 months?
Oh, the last 6 months. What can I say? I'm doing lots of reading for my RM. Please, I think that is the best achievement because I don't like to read, but for my research I need to read. So I think that is the one because other things not much to say. Yeah.
So your achievement is reading a lot more than last year.
Yeah, we are in culinary, don't do reading. We mostly like to be in the kitchen as well. Yeah. Yeah, we like to be in the kitchen, not in front of the paper or the books to read. Yeah.
Okay, you're right. But that achievement is going to help you to gain an even greater achievement when you complete your studies.
Yeah, yeah. Inshallah. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Okay, Norhaiza, would you like to share?
Hello. And okay, actually a few lah, but I just want to say about this one. So of course, when talk about best achievement, so the outcome also need to going into that, right? So my best achievement this year actually when I received the grant successful. Okay, when I submit that to, actually this is internal grant. Actually it's from last year FRGS, so it's a bit disappointed when it's unsuccessful, but I try my best to submit to another grant. So luckily this year I received that kind of grant. So many effort need to put as well. So but for me that's a best achievement for this year. So means that I need to work hard for that to prove that I can do better from last year. Yeah, that's the best type of my achievement. And some more that grant also is a collaboration with other public U. So so I hope that I can achieve that. Yes, because this is already in the middle of years. So this is something that I need to push myself as well. Yeah.
Good. Well done. Keep going, yeah, and keep trying.
Yeah.
Those I remember, this for 2 failures equivalent to 1 success. So sometimes it's just got to, well, it's okay, fail a few times and you learn the lessons, and definitely success is on the way. Good job. Okay, so let's move on to Yokling.
Actually, I didn't achieve any best achievement either in the year 2022 or 2021, right? Okay, it's based on measurement. I didn't get any awards at all, right? So there's no best achievement.
Well, it not necessarily be award or getting a grant or anything like that. Like, what do you think you have done well so far?
Achieve that is actually I can recover back my health. Yeah. Yeah, that's my achievement. Yep.
That's good. That's a good one. Yeah, that's a good one. One thing I realized about us being Asians and all, yeah, being Malaysians, I'm not sure. We always don't seem to celebrate our achievements, celebrate the little things that we do every day, and we tend to be overly humble and kind of like, you know, play down the things that we are able to do or we are able to achieve. And I think that's, well, I think we should celebrate the little things that we achieve every single day. So even like, honestly, for me, sometimes at the end of the week, and I look back, you know, like you said just now, I don't think I've achieved much things yet. But when I look at the things that I did, you know, the entire week, I think that's a great achievement, like having to maybe solve a problem, having to complete probably my marking, or having to deliver a training session or deliver my class well, you know. Those are all the little achievements that I think we should celebrate because we did well. So by doing all those, it actually helps us to keep our motivation and also keep us going and improving for the better. So do always reflect and think about what you have achieved and think about how you can celebrate them. Okay, so let's move on to Sing Ping.
For me, I think my biggest achievement for this year, first half, is not so much from the academic side or from my work. It's just that for the first time after 2 years of COVID, I finally flew back to my hometown, Kuching. So happy.
Yeah.
I spent 1 month there. Oh.
Awesome, awesome.
Chinese New Year, and I'm thinking of going back again because, you know, parents are getting older.
Make up for all the lost time, yeah?
Yeah.
But
2 years.
over there is expensive, isn't it? I heard that the flight tickets are.
Yeah, it was expensive. I flew back that time. Chinese New Year in February was about 2,000 plus return. And I wanted to fly back last week because I think it's school holiday is also almost 1,000 plus to 2,000. So maybe I'll fly back again tomorrow or on Sunday. I see the price is a huge drop. It's like few hundred ringgit only you can get a return flight. So this is my second attempt flying back.
Oh, good luck, good luck. Okay, thank you. Right, so shall we hear from Aswa now?
Oh, hi. Same like Simping, nothing much about on the academic side, but I do achieve to organize the CSR event with my own team. So I'm glad that this year we are able to do that, and hopefully by the end of this year I'm going to be able to do one more CSR event with my team. That's it.
Oh, so what did you do for the CSR project?
This year for the first one, it is more about health event with the community, where we did free health checkup for the community. We invite some Zumba instructor to organize for this particular community as well, and there's some like pameran as well for this particular people to have seen it about ADs, about no smoking things and so on lah. So by end of this year, I'm planning to have something outside from maybe in Selangor itself, but then at the village area for end of this year.
Right, great job, Aswa. Keep it up. Good work. Okay, thank you for sharing, everyone. So basically, what I had you sharing there is about achievements, and this is also which is the center of what we are talking about today. Learning outcomes are achievements. Okay, so what do we see as outcomes? What do we see as achievements? Okay, right. So let's move on to Okay, so what we're going to talk about, these are the few sub topics for the session today. We did some introduction just now already. I'm so glad to get to know some of you. There are so many new faces and new names that I am still trying to learn. I was in Glenmarie last week. Was it last week? Yeah, last week. And also two to 3 weeks ago. So and when I was there, despite me being online with a few colleagues already to do discussions and going down to Glenmarie a few times, every single time I go down, I still get to know new colleagues. And today I'm also getting to know new colleagues. So it's really cool and really fun to be in a bigger family now, working with more colleagues. Right. So next, we are going to go into the gist of what we are doing today, and we're going to look at what actually is learning outcome. And then we're going to talk about domains of learning, which is also related to learning outcomes. We'll take a break at 10:30, and then come back at 10:45, which we will focus on writing learning outcomes, which is something that we as lecturers, teachers, need to be very, very aware of, because that will be the central of what we do in our lessons and what we do with the students, and also what we do with the assessments. Okay? And we hopefully will close by 12:45 to do a wrap up. I know it's Friday today. Many of you will want to go for lunch with colleagues, yeah, and some might need to go for breaks. Okay. So is it not moving? It's like okay. So first up is, what do you understand about OBE? So you did the principles of OBE in the last session. So what do you understand about this? I'd like you to go to this link here. Okay, and then answer the question there. Just copy the link maybe, yeah. Okay, you can go to this directly here. You're going to this, yeah, the code as well. You're able to open it. Can you open the link? Okay, all right. Okay, so I give you 2 minutes to think about it, and then you type your answer in, okay? Hi, Mahathir. It's okay, no worries. Okay, we are just doing this activity now. So you can click on the link. Either you scan the code here with your phone, or you can click on the link here. I'll just send it in now. Okay, it's here. Okay, you can click on the link and then answer the question there. Right, so I see some of you have put in your answer. We still have about, just when I turn on timer, it's time's up. Okay, right. Okay, I can see answers coming. You can just submit your answers when you can. Okay, I'm going to share my screen with you. Right. So these are input from you. So what do you understand about OBE? So one of you say it's about what the students should learn. Okay. Any activity we do should be focusing towards OBE. The outcome-based education assessments should match and reflect the PLOs and CLOs. Outcome-based education, what we want our students to have in them: knowledge, problem solving, behavior, be independent. And education based on what is important for students to learn and do, and what industry required from students based on that the OBE outcomes design. Okay? Setting objectives and working towards achieving it. OBE is the student's level of understanding from the assessments given. Since the level of understanding of art is not safe, therefore by having and practicing OBE, we will assess them according to variety of assessments such as formative and summative. Very interesting. Outcome-based education is education in which an emphasis is placed on clearly articulated idea of what students are expected to know and be able to do. That is, what skills and knowledge they need to have when they leave school. Okay. Outcome-based education, where the objective is to facilitate student learning based on CLO, PLO, PEO through multiple types of assessments. Interesting. I see all of you have got this CLO, PLO, PEO. I'm going to ask you a question later on about all those terms that you're using. Thank you for the feedback. I think many of you have got the gist of what outcome-based education is, right? So now, I'm gonna look at this. I want you to look at this definition of outcome-based, some of which was already covered in parts of your answers there. Okay, basically, outcome-based education is actually a model, yeah, that focuses on what students can actually do after they are taught. So that is why we are focusing on outcome, what they can do after they are taught. So we are focusing on what they can do as in the result, the outcome. After you teach them to, example, you teach them to bake a chocolate cake. Okay, and then eventually, are they able to bake a chocolate cake? Yeah. And does it taste like a chocolate cake? Okay. Does it look like a chocolate cake? So if they can, so they have achieved the outcome. So we are just mainly focusing on what they can do after they are taught. So based on this, the outcome means as in what students can do is actually the student-centered learning philosophy. So it's very, very much focusing on students. What students can do, what students need to learn, how students will be assessed. So it's a very student-centered learning philosophy. The focus is on empirically measuring student performance. There must be a way that you can measure the student's performance, and that is what we have been saying, the outcome. So it is always on what they can do rather than what topics that you are teaching them. A lot of times, teachers get confused with, oh, these are the topics that I must teach them. It's not so much on us as the teacher, but it's more on what the students learn and what they can do after learning the topics. So you see the focus a lot is on the learning rather than the teaching. But then again, without the teaching, there cannot be any learning. And vice versa. This teaching and learning thing is like a two-way kind of thing, and it's like it's a cycle. Okay, and it's like it takes two to tango kind of situation, two hands to clap. If I'm a willing teacher, but I don't have a willing student, then it's not going to happen. Okay, no learning, no teaching will happen. So if I have a willing student and an unwilling teacher, again, same thing. Nothing's going to happen. All right, so there must be two ways to it, but the focus should be on the learning. Okay, not on the teachings. But when we focus on the learning, of course, that will also affect how we are teaching. Okay, do you understand the principle when we say that it is student-centered learning philosophy? So here we are really looking at how students learn, how we can help them to learn better so that they can achieve that particular outcome that we want them to achieve. And then only we think about how we can teach them. So sometimes I kind of like joke also, if right now we call teaching and learning center, should we be changing it to say learning and teaching center? And that's what a lot of other institutions have done. Instead of calling it a teaching and learning center, they are calling it as a learning and teaching center. Similarly, in UOW Australia, they also always put learning in front and then only teaching. But it's a hand-in-hand process. But now, rather than we thinking about what we want to do in class, what we want to teach in class, it should be what students need to learn, what students need to achieve. Okay, and that leads to what is the outcome. All right. Any questions here so far? You okay? Right, yeah. So my next question now is, what is the one most essential element in OBE? So same thing, going back to that, I hope you have not closed your browser yet. If you have not, then you should be able to see the next question that pops up. If you have, then you can click on the link again. The same link, and you will be directed to the next question. So what is the one most essential element in OBE? If you have two responses here, you have proof, evidence, learning outcome. What? Success, big success. Yeah, that's actually something that is one of the quotes of the OBE, success, big success. Know what the POS and then assessment. Okay. Any other answers? One most essential element. What is the one most essential element? The one most important thing in outcome-based education. Without that, the whole model framework will not work. Performance. So Mahathir said outcome. Did you submit your answer into this link here, Mahathir? Submitted, okay. Right, great, thank you. Okay, so it's interesting that all of you gave me a little bit different thing. It's supposed to be a word cloud, and the one that is the most frequent answer will come up as the biggest. So it seems that everyone submit a different answer. We have a new one, curriculum design. So before you can actually move on to the curriculum design, the assessment and all, what is the thing that you must have? Curriculum design, assessment, all these are part of OBE. We do talk about them as well. But what drives the design and what drives the assessment? Some of you actually have really same answer, but just probably using a different word. Okay, you have the learning outcome there, you have performance, you have proof and evidence. So these are basically you're referring to the result of something. Yeah. So in OBE, the most essential element that is like the rock of it, the center, okay, or the anchor of it is the learning outcomes. The learning outcomes will drive everything that you do. Like I said just now, your curriculum design, okay, your assessments, your teaching and learning activities, and so on. So if your learning outcome is not clearly written, then everything will fall apart. The design will fall apart, assessments will fall apart. Your teaching and learning activities will not be able to help the students to achieve their goal, okay, what they want to do or what they should be able to do at the end of program or the course or the lesson. Okay, so learning outcomes are the essential. They are key to the OBE. So for this particular workshop, these are your learning outcomes. At the end of this session, I hope you'll be able to differentiate between PO, PLO, CLO, and LLO. Some of this have been mentioned by you just now, so suppose you know a little bit about it, we shall see. And for those who are not quite familiar with it, no worries, we will go through all these terms because these are all related to learning outcomes. Second one will be, I hope that you'll be able to describe the 3 domains of learning because the 3 domains of learning will also affect your learning outcome. And lastly, to write appropriate learning outcomes using Bloom's taxonomy. So today we are just going to focus on just the Bloom's taxonomy, and I think some of you are aware that there are other taxonomies as well. We will kind of like go through it roughly, but the outcome for today will be, I hope you'll be able to write that is using one that is using Bloom's taxonomy. Okay, I guess most of you are very familiar. Now, before we really move on, what is learning outcome? How would you use 1 or 2 words to describe it? Can you put your answer into the same link again in Menti? We should be able to see the next question. We have one answer here. What the students are supposed to achieve and demonstrate the objectives of the course that we want to achieve. What else? Answers. What to learn? What to learn to achieve? Okay. And answers. Skills and knowledge required after completing the course. Okay, after completing the course, can be after completing the program, or even after completing a workshop or a lesson. Yeah. Okay, I'd like you to take a look at this one, the second submission here. Objectives of the course that we want to achieve. I want to ask you, is objective the same as outcome? Excuse me. Is objective the same as outcome? What do you think? Or you can turn on your mic to share, or you can put your thoughts in the chat box here. You think objectives and outcomes are the same? If there's no, objective is the aim, outcome is the output. Okay. So, are you able to provide us an example of an objective, an example of an outcome? It can be an example from your own course as well. Yeah. Able to draw human figure. Draw the human figure. Oh, okay, your outcome is correct. Okay, outcome is to draw the human figure, but the objective is a bit of tweak that you need to do. Okay, basically objective is like what Mahathir said, is the aim. Okay, what is the aim of this lesson? Okay, example, the aim of this workshop today. Okay, the aim of this workshop today, my objective is for the learners to learn about learning outcomes, to learn how to differentiate between PEO and PLO. Okay, that is the objective of this. The objective is so that my students can learn something. Okay, but the outcome is I am focusing on what the students can do at the end. My students will be able to describe learning outcome. My students will be able to write the learning outcome using Bloom's taxonomy, blah, blah, blah. The students will be able to differentiate between PEO and PLO. Okay, so you will see that there are specific words that we usually use when it comes to writing outcomes, which I think many of you are aware of. There are sets of words that we use typically for writing learning outcomes. But when it comes to objectives, right, it can be I can be using words like students. The objective for the students is the objective of the workshop is so that students can learn how to appreciate heritage buildings in Penang. That's my aim. My aim is to bring them around Penang Island to walk around and look at heritage buildings and appreciate the beauty, the architecture of it. But the outcome would be they need to maybe they need to design. Okay, after going for that visit and all, learning about all these heritage buildings and all, and then they will need to design a building that has got the elements of whatever Renaissance or anything like that. So that would be the outcome. Do you see a difference? Are you able to see the difference between an objective and an outcome? Okay, yeah. All right. So you see that when it comes to outcome, it's really very focused on what the students can do. Okay, it's not so much of what we want the students to learn to be. Okay, but it's focusing on what the students can do. So that's the little difference there that often we see that there is a bit of a confusion. Okay. All right. So I hope I've cleared that. Yeah. Okay. Let's go back to slides. Move on from that. Okay. So learning outcomes are statements, okay, that describe what learners are able to do after a period of learning. So it's not just about what students are able to do, but it has to also tie with a period of learning. Okay, the period of learning can be, like I said, completion of a lesson, completion of a workshop, or completion of a course, or even completion of a program. So these are some examples here of learning outcomes where you can see the one in yellows are what students are able to do, able to explain Ohm's law, able to perform the cha-cha-cha dance, able to demonstrate confidence in public speaking. And there must always be a period of learning. And typically, for us, it's always written already. At the end of the course, students will be able to, at the end of the course, that period of learning is usually stated there already. But we as educators, we got to know that, because remember we said about learning outcomes will be measured. So when you want to measure something, you must have a limit to it, like by when you're going to do a measurement, right? So this is why we need to have that period. Now, this is the outcome-based education model. Have you seen this before? When you did your session on principles? You seen this? It did to you, I hope. Never mind if it doesn't. Okay. So I'm showing it to you now if you have never seen it before. So we have, if you look at this diagram here, this pyramid, we have the assessments sitting right at the bottom. Assessments being final exam, your test, your lab work, assignment, and so on. It's pretty. Yes. Okay. Maybe it has more colors here. All right. Okay. So the second one is on the delivery, which is the lesson learning outcomes, sitting on the third level in course outcomes. And then we have the program outcomes. Then we have program educational objectives, the school vision and mission, lastly, the university vision. Does this thing look like logical to you? Does it look logical to you? Does it
Yes.
make sense? Yes, it makes sense to you. Okay. So if you look at this, okay, if you look at this pyramid, when we talk about student attainment, we are actually looking from the bottom upwards. Am I right? You're looking for students' attainment. You will be giving them assessments, correct? And from there, you will gauge whether they have achieved your lesson learning outcome, which if they achieve your lesson learning outcome, they should achieve your course outcomes. And if they achieve your course outcomes, they should achieve your program outcomes. And if they achieve your program outcomes, they should be able to achieve your PO, and then your school vision and vision, and ultimately the university vision. Sounds logical, right?
Yeah.
So you see that looking at this simple pyramid here, that every single little thing that we do will eventually lead to the biggest thing, which is the university vision and mission. So it starts from the very bottom in terms of assessments. How are you measuring students' learning outcome? Okay, so we talk about students' attainment, we start from the bottom up. Right, so the 4 stages of OBE, you remember this, I hope. I'm sure this has been shown to you as well. So the very first step is, we are talking about what are the learning outcomes we intend for students. In the 4 stages, what do you name this? Can you remember the 4 stages, the name for the 4 stages? You get me back to Gabriel already.
It is planning,
Yeah.
developing, implementing, and evaluating.
Planning, yeah, the first stage is planning. Then how to best help students to achieve. That would be your delivery, okay, what you do in your classroom. And then number 3, how do we know outcomes are achieved is when you do your assessments, okay? And lastly, you will have your evaluation and CQI. Well done, you can still remember, good. So these are the 4 stages of OBE. And when we talk about learning outcomes here, about writing learning outcomes today, which stage are we at?
First one.
The first one is, that's right, the planning. Okay, the planning is very, very crucial. When we do our planning, we write our learning outcomes clearly so that the subsequent stages will be able to, flow smoothly. So it serves like I said, your pillar. If your pillar, is your foundation is not laid properly, your pillars are not straight at all, then you will find that your delivery is not really aligned, then your assessments are not aligned, and that will cause a lot of issues when you do your evaluation in the CQI. A lot of things to be amended and to be improved. Okay, so writing the learning outcomes is in the planning stage. Of course, sometimes I know people say, you don't need to really plan so much, yeah. Why bother planning when things can sometimes go wrong? Sometimes when you don't plan, that's when things can actually really, really go wrong, and you don't know how to salvage it because you have no plan at all. Okay, so if we what's the saying that says, oh, if we don't we don't plan, if those who do not plan, what? Nobody, okay, that's my mind is so mangled now. Nobody, can somebody help me with that
Nobody
quote?
plans to fail.
Nobody plan to fail. Yeah, but only fail to plan.
Yes.
Thank you for helping me.
Failure to plan is planning to fail.
Yeah, thank you so much. My head is like, all the words are like, they're all jammed up. They want to come up, but I don't know which one to come out first. Right, that's right, yeah. So planning is really, really crucial, yeah. Moving properly. Okay, so we are at OBE stage 1 and we are at planning, and this is when we need to learn how to write our learning outcomes theory. Because your learning outcomes will be the one that will direct the next thing that you need to do. And you will also direct your students into what they need to learn, and so that they are also aware of what they have to achieve by the end of whatever lesson or course or program. Okay? So to be able to do what? Yeah, to be able to do what? How do you wish to transform the students? How, students come in, okay, so what do we want them to learn? How do we want to change them? So that's the part that we need to think about when we want to write our learning outcomes. Okay?
Okay.
So when, yes?
Okay, no problem. Yeah.
You have a question?
No. Okay. I said okay.
Oh, okay. Very sorry. I thought you have a question. Okay. So we have 3 parts, yeah, where what we want our students to demonstrate what kind of level of knowledge. That one is usually in terms of the cognitive level. Okay. Then we also have, we want students to demonstrate what type of skills they have by the end of the lesson or by the end of the course. And this is very much psychomotor. For those who are teaching hospitality, this might be something, the one with culinary arts and all, this is something that is more related to your discipline. Another one would be, they are able to exhibit what sort of behavior or attitude this will be effective. And generally, these are the courses which is under the MPUs, yeah, the general studies, like courses like global social responsibility, English courses. Those are very effective type. Yeah. So these are the general 3 types of learning outcomes that we will have for our courses. Are we going to look at their cognitive level? Are we going to look at their skills, so it's psychomotor? Or are we going to look at their behavior or attitude, which is effective? Oops, sorry. Okay, so in terms of OBE approach, when designing a new program, whenever we want to start a new program, the very first thing that we need to do is think about the learning outcomes. When they graduate, what we want them to do, what we want them to be able to do. So that's what we say just now. My question is, how do we wish to transform the students? Okay, then we consider what courses, which also mean what subjects, yeah, and course outcomes are needed to help them to achieve this, what we want them to be able to do when they graduate. And therefore, it's always the focus on learning outcomes. That's the essential. Only after you have decided on the learning outcomes, you can think about the curriculum to help to achieve all these outcomes. Okay, so that's the OBE approach. Designing the learning outcomes is the forefront of everything. So there are different levels of outcomes. And some of you, like I said, you have mentioned earlier, you have program learning outcomes. You have course learning outcomes. And you have also lesson learning outcomes, and sometimes it's also written as topic learning outcomes. But I always prefer the lesson learning outcome than topic learning outcomes. And just now, some of you mentioned PEO. What is PEO? I didn't put here in my list PEO. What is PEO?
Program educational objectives.
Program educational objectives. Okay. So how is PEO different from this, all these 3 here? What is program educational objectives?
The university, the program.
The program, yeah. But how is it different from program learning outcomes?
I think first we have to identify what the program educational objectives first. Then only we would be able to set up the PMO, CLO, and so on.
Yeah. Right. Quite
PEO
right.
is based on
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yes.
PEO is based on what actually the university has stated, and when we have that kind of PEO, then we need to identify the PLO based on the PEO that have been identified by the universities. I understand. And the PEO keep on change according to the the current environment needed to change, so that we need to follow the what I call the current educations that happening. So that's my understanding about PEO.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Okay. So I see here, Mahathir has put here, PEO gauges what the students are able to do after graduating, about 3 to 5 years. Okay. Yes. So PEO, yeah, as some of you have mentioned, is at the university level, the vision and mission. But PEO is something that we only measure 3 to 5 years later after graduation. Yeah. It will be a survey that is done 3 to 5 years after the students leave us. They become our alumni, and then we give them a survey and we see how they are, faring in it. That is actually to see how these students are able to do in actual reality in employment. So that is the program educational objectives. Okay, basically, as our service here, our industry is about getting students in, preparing them for the workforce, and ensuring that they are able to stay in employment in the industry, in the job market. Okay, so that is our program educational objectives. Our objective is to get them out there and to be able to work on long term and continue working. Yeah, so that is the program educational objectives. How is that different from the program learning outcomes? The program learning outcomes, as stated here, they are upon completion of the program. When they graduate, say example, the program is 3 years. At the end of that 3 years, okay, they graduate, they are already equipped with what kind of skills, what kind of knowledge, what kind of whatever behavior and attitude. Okay, upon completion of the program, that would be the program learning outcomes. Then 3 to 5 years down the road, that is the program educational objectives. So that's the difference, yeah? And yes, you are also right that sometimes it changes according to the needs of the industry, because like I said, 3 to 5 years, they are working in the industry. Things change, especially nowadays with technology. Things change so quickly. So that is why we also have board of advisory. I think some of you may be also involved in it, sometimes when the advisory board comes on campus, they have meetings and discussions. That is why we also invite people from the industry to come back and together with the academics to have discussion, to talk about what the industry needs, how can we help to prepare students to be able to meet whatever demands that there is in the current industry. Okay, so that's why sometimes after the feedback session and everything, your department or your school will have some program committee to talk about curriculum review, because you need to change some things because times have changed, the demands have changed, some of the things you need to update. So that's when you might change. But it doesn't really happen very frequently. because like I said, you only meet your advisory board once a year, and this is a way that you do like 3 to 5 years down the road and all. And we usually change. Also, we don't change like greatly by a lot, but it might affect some of your courses that you're offering. Okay, and maybe some of the course learning outcomes. So course learning outcomes will be upon completion of the course or the subject. So generally, typically our semester is like 11 to 12 weeks. So at the end of the 11 to 12 weeks, that's the completion of one course. What can they do? Okay. And the third one is lesson learning outcomes. So which means by the end of the lesson or by the end of this 1 hour or 2 hour or your week, what are they able to do? Now, all these are interconnected. They are not really separated. Okay, but the way that you write them is slightly different. As a program learning outcome is slightly different, differently worded. As a course learning outcome, slightly differently worded, and also as a learning outcome. But the difference is mainly in terms of the scope. You will see that the program learning outcomes, I'm sure all of you have got your own program and you know your own program learning outcomes. You will look at it as the scope is rather large. And then you have your course learning outcomes, which is slightly smaller. And when it comes to your lesson learning outcome, it's even smaller. Okay, but they are all aligned one way or another. Right. So now I'd like to share with you the 8 domains of learning outcome. This is according to MQA, but this is MQF 1.0. I'd like you to take note that I was reminded to share this because apparently that despite so many years already, it seems that some of our lecturers are still not aware that we are now in MQF 2.0. We are no longer using MQF 1.0. So this is just, I was asked to highlight this and to remind participants that we no longer use MQF 1.0, okay? We are now in MQF 2.0. It's not entirely different, as you can see here. There are still 8 domains. Okay, it's not very different. Some of the things are quite similar. It's just a way of them rearranging some of the things, putting some of the sections together, splitting some of it, rewording some parts of it. So now what we have as domain 1 is knowledge and understanding. Number 2, cognitive skills. 3, practical skills. 4, interpersonal and communication skills. 5, digital and numeracy skills. 6, leadership, autonomy and responsibility. 7, personal and entrepreneurial skills. 8, ethics and professionalism. Now, this is really important when you are writing your program learning outcomes. Okay, typically we will write the program learning outcomes 1 for each domain. Well, I know that some programs they do split, like example, digital and numeracy skills. Some programs they do have two learning outcomes, 2 program learning outcomes for domain 1. But typically we have 1 domain, 1 program learning outcome. So for some, they might split. They will end up having maybe 10 or maybe 11. Right? So where can you get your program learning outcome from? Where do you get your program learning outcome from?
It's in the COPA document, is it? But it's different.
It must be in your COPA document. It's also in the student handbook.
Student part 2.
Okay. You'll be able to see your program learning outcomes there. So if you are not too sure, you can always refer to your program leader and also your head of department or head of school about the PLO of that particular program that you're teaching. Ask your boss, yes. Okay, all right. So these are written by a group of people in your school and department, and of course, it goes through the MQA for audit and auditing. Right. So I've talked about this already just now. The difference between PEO, PLO, and CLO. So if you look at the bigger picture here, yeah. Okay. Like I said just now, the PEO is 3 to 5 years after graduation. But PO or PLO, sometimes it says PLO, okay, is at the time of graduation, and your CLO, or sometimes known as the CO, is at the end of the semester. So when you start writing a program, when you start deciding, okay, you start from where? Where do you start from? Writing learning outcome for where? Writing learning outcome here, writing the learning outcome here or here?
PEO.
You start from the PEO, yes. You must first know how do you think these students will be, what you want the students to be in the working environment, okay, and then only you go back, and then you think about your PLO, and then you move back, you think about your CLO, and then you think about the courses that you're going to offer, okay? Not start from what you like to teach, and then to move up, okay? All right, so that's generally how it goes, yeah? Okay. What's this? I think there's something wrong with my mouse. Okay, I've talked about this already just now. I'm just going to skip this. So I'm just going to show you some examples of PEO, okay, from different universities for different programs. So you can see the PEO is actually very, very broad. To produce graduates who attain gainful employment and practice successfully in mechanical related engineering technology professions. Okay, to produce graduates who remain technically current and adapt to rapidly changing technologies through continuous learning and self-improvement. So you see, it's a lot about, they are in that 3 to 5 years, but they are able to still adapt and continuously learn and be independent in their self-development. Okay, to be able to solve problems in an actual environment that they are in. So it's very much when they are already in employment, what they can do. This is another one. Okay. Now, program learning outcomes, like I've mentioned just now, is actually to support your PEO. So what is an example for like a design program? At the end of this program, students are able to apply and demonstrate design knowledge and skills in creative media design. At the end of this program, students will be able to relate and discuss the latest trends, techniques to their research projects. So it's very much, they are still new, they are fresh. But these are the fundamental things they are able to do at the beginning of their career. Yeah. Not so much, as you can see, the difference between the PEO just now is they are already in employment. They are able to have practice independent learning and also problem solve things that are in the industry. Okay. So who determines the learning outcomes? Who decides? The expert? Only? Okay, so I'm going to give you this activity. I want you to think about it, right? We will do this after you come back from your break. Okay, it's 10:30 now. We will take a break. have a look at my questions here. So when we come back, I will put you into your breakout groups, okay? And then you will discuss with your team members. So as you're having a break, you can think about it. Who do you think are involved in doing this? Okay?
Okay.
All right. Any questions?
No.
No? All good? Okay, so we go for a 15-minute break now, and I'll see you back at 10:45.
Can you show the question again before you the screen? Yes.
You
Thank
want to
you.
see the question? Okay.
The screen. Right.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Let me share it again.
Hmm.
Okay. There you go.
Okay, thanks. See you in 15 minutes.
Okay, see you. Go and grab your coffee or your tea. Welcome back. You ready? Okay, great. So just now I mentioned, when we come back from the break, we are going into our breakout rooms to look at these questions here. So when you are in your breakout session afterwards, I'd like you to answer the questions here. Who are the people involved in the crafting of the PO and PLO? What sources of information are needed? So in your group, either 3 or 2 of you, yeah, I'd like you to discuss these 2 questions and then come up with some reasonable answers. So I'm going to give you, I'm going to give you 5 minutes, yeah, okay. And then when you come back, I'd like you to share your answers with everyone. And if you do have any experience in designing the PO and PLO, previously maybe your team has gotten you involved in it, so kindly share with us as well. Okay, are you ready? All right, so let's begin now, yeah?
Berapa? 3 minit je.
So this is our group, Michelle, right?
Pardon?
So this is our group members.
Yes, I moved some of the members around because I noticed that some are not back from the break, so there's no response. So I moved around.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so this is there are 3 of you here in this group. Got your questions right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I will leave you for the discussion.
Okay. Prepare.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think BPO is set up by the MQF, if I'm not mistaken. MQF or MQA? MQA, isn't it? Malaysian, I think Malaysian Qualification Agency. Mistaken.
Meeting is being recorded.
Welcome back. I hope you had a fruitful discussion. So can we hear from room 1?
What was the second question?
Can you tell us, like, okay, who are involved in the crafting of the PEO and PLO, and what sources of information are needed? So who are involved first?
For the PO, no, PO and PLO. Okay,
Yes.
so after the discussion, we decided to say that actually PEO is came from the idea from the external sources, such as the academic advisory that we have appointed from the industry expert. And then sometimes we also call the alumni to get the review in terms of the current workforce in order us to change what should be changed based on the previous PEO, because like what we had discussed just now about the PEOs sometimes is need to be changed according to what is the working environment needed to change. So that's actually the people who are involved. And after we do some discussion, then the university will decide what actually the PEO should we have in education institution itself. Yeah. So that's the PEO. When we have the PEO is like a directions to the department or the schools. So that the PLO will design by the program academic reviews. The people that involve, of course, maybe the head or maybe the person in charge in terms of the curriculum design or the program review. So PLO should be aligned with the PO in order as to have a very concrete outcome for program learning outcome for each of the program, because different program have different program learning outcomes. So we need to see what actually the whole program should be in the end of the conclusions of the program itself. So that's the people that involved. Means that to differentiate between the PO and PLO means that PO is more like external, internal, and the PLO is the internal, is the institution. Yeah.
Thank you. Very well explained. Thank you very much, Eliza. Thank you, group 1. Okay, so from room 2. Who is going to be the spokesperson for room 2?
Because the room 2, all of us, most of us have not dealt with PEO and PLOs. So I'll just jump in with my experience doing it.
Okay.
So the PEO is, as the room 1 said, it's based on the industry, knowledge from the industry, market research, and industry advisement panel, as well as other stakeholders. And it's usually done by the head of school, ADH, and PL program leader. For the PLO, it's mostly the ADH, the PL, and the academic team. And it is based on what the MQF version 2 calls for, and is specific from program to program. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Mahathir. So just now you actually missed our introduction session. So Mahathir, which department are you from?
I'm from SCCM, Creative Media.
I see. Okay, and you are teaching what courses?
I'm teaching the diploma in sequential art and games and digital media production.
I see. Okay, so you have experience in developing the curriculum or developing a new program?
Yes, 2 of them. One diploma program and one degree program.
I see. Okay, good. Thank you for sharing, Mahathir.
Okay.
All right. So I think basically most of you got the gist and the idea of it. Okay. So you got got it right by saying that yes, your advisory panel, your alumni, these are the people who will actually help you to decide on the PO and also the PLO. Okay, usually you will get feedback from them. Also based on your MQF, the academic team, and so on. Okay, so once you have set your PO and then your PLO, that's when only you will create your curriculum or your courses. So what courses should you have in the program and what learning outcomes should you have will only be decided once your PLOs are determined. So when you look at this diagram here, yeah, we start with the student. And then we have the program outcomes upon graduation, what we want students to be able to do upon graduation. And like you have mentioned just now, these are the people who will, people and also sources of information who will guide you on your program outcome, the MQF domain, okay? Then you have the external stakeholder who could be the industry. Then you have the professional bodies. If you have programs like architecture or engineering, you have this governance by your professional body, nursing as well. Okay, faculty experts, which are all of you, your academic team, and of course the institution, vision and mission. So all these will help you create your program outcomes, and from there you will have your course outcomes because you will have your courses. What courses will help you to build that program outcome? And then you will have your course outcomes. And then from your course outcomes, you will go down to your lesson learning outcomes, okay, or sometimes known as the lesson outcomes, which are the ones that are, you can say, directly related to your students' learning on a day-to-day or weekly basis. Okay? So, as an educator or as an academic staff, it's really, really important now for you to know what is your course learning outcomes. Basically, when you are asked to teach a course, you will have your table form and all the information needed will be like that, including your course learning outcomes. Now, I'd like to also say this because I was reminded to tell participants that course learning outcomes are not something that is set in stone. Yeah, as just now we have discussed already, with the changes in the industry and the industry needs and all, right, you can actually make an improvement. So similarly to your course learning outcomes, you can propose for changes. It's not like it is in the table form, and that's why you have to teach it. Yes, you teach it accordingly, but if times have changed and you as a subject expert think that this is outdated or think this is not correctly written, you can propose for a change, just have to go through your program committee to change it. So it's not like set in stone and for years it's like this and you adopted this course, you inherited this course and it's like this, so you continue teaching like this, and you just leave it go on and students may not be well prepared then for what they're expected to do in the industry. So that's when we will have the employers outside coming back and telling us that these universities are not preparing students for the workforce. So what has gone wrong? So each and every one of us actually is a stakeholder in this. We play an important part. Okay? So generally we have 3 to 5 course learning outcomes per course. I have seen some that have about like 10 to 12 course outcomes. But if you look at it more closely, actually many of them are more of a lesson learning outcome than a course learning outcome. So like I said just now, course learning outcomes are still quite broad compared to lesson learning outcome. Okay, right? We will see afterwards what's the difference between a lesson learning outcome and a course learning outcome. But basically, it must be a coherent set that captures the essential outcomes of the course. While each one has to be distinct here, it should be coherent to a certain extent that it has got the, you know, the essence of the entire course. If your course is about, say your course is about, you know, students who are able to, you know, since many of you are from hospitality, maybe hospitality and culinary. If your course is about pastry and whatever, so whatever that is written in your course learning outcomes should be only related to things which are pastry and not something related to, I don't know, butchery or whatever. So that is different, completely different, right? Okay, so it has to be coherent in that sense, yeah? And it must be measurable. So we have a lot of times learning outcomes written, but then don't know how to measure. How to measure, okay? How to measure means to say, how are we going to design an assessment to make sure that we can safely say that, oh, students are, they have achieved this. So that's why the title of today's workshop is actually writing measurable learning outcomes. We can write learning outcomes, but at the end of the day, are they measurable? So whenever we write the learning outcome, we have to make sure it's measurable. Because at the end of the day, we need to do assessments to check if they have achieved or not achieved the outcome. So if when we write the learning outcome, it is not measurable, then we will have an issue when it comes to assessments. Okay, so when we say it must be measurable, that means the level must be specified. The outcome is something that we can assess. Okay, so the course outcomes basically then contribute to the program outcomes. Right, so it should be something like this. A course can be directly mapped to one program outcome, or a course can, or 2 or 3 courses can be mapped to one program outcome. Okay, they can be many courses under one program, and they can all map to, you know, map as in a few courses can map to one program learning outcome. Sometimes you may find that communication skills, all those things, right, may not exactly appear in your discipline courses because those are achieved through the common English courses. Other things are like maybe personal skills, yeah, leadership skills. Sometimes you may not find them in your core discipline courses, but you will find them in the MPU courses. So basically, when you submit your program, that whole COPA document and all, right, you will have to include all these general studies courses, English courses as well, so that you will have the whole set of PLOs that are aligned and mapped. Okay, if not, you may find some of the PLOs like, hey, I don't have courses, because those are usually more of like MPU courses. Okay, right. So what is crucial to know about CLO? We must be very clear about the courses, the CLOs of the courses that we are teaching, because that is, like I said, the starting point of it. Before we even think about how we're going to assess the students, before we think about what we're going to do with the students in class, we must be very clear of the course learning outcomes. And for students, it's also important for them to know. So at the beginning of each class, each semester, you should begin by telling them these are the course learning outcomes for this particular course, so that students know where they are heading. Okay, and I always give this example of like, as teachers, we are like the, you know, the driver, okay, and our students are like our passengers. So we want to take them, for example, to Penang, okay, and specifically, you want them to see Komta, that building Komta. All right, so you tell the students, hey, come, let's jump into the car, and I'm going to take you to Penang. That's what you tell them. So you jump into the car happily and you started driving. Yeah. And along the way, you tell them, oh, look at this, the limestone, you can see that this is we are near Ipoh and so on and so on. Okay. And then when they reach Penang, okay, and what you want them to do is to see Hongkong that you did. But when the students arrive at the destination, or rather Penang, what they see is probably nasi kandar, char kway teow, and Penang Hill. Everything about Penang, but not the building. So at the end of the trip, then you ask them, hey, so tell me how many floors are there in Hongkong? What's the shape and everything? So your students will be like, huh? Are we supposed to look at Hongkong? And you didn't know because you said that we're supposed to just go to Penang. So that's what the student understand. So that is why when CLOs are not clearly specified, or not clearly informed to the students might also get lost. Yeah. And then when we give an assessment and we expect them to answer the questions, the questions will be all about the Comta building, but students didn't know that they are supposed to specifically understand Comta building, look at everything else around it, but not Comta building. So they are not able to then complete the assessment. They are not able to answer the questions in final exam or assignment and so on. So if the learning outcome is clearly stated and clearly informed to the students, yeah, then they will know that, oh, we're supposed to look at that building. And when they arrive in Penang, they look around. If they don't see the building, maybe they will ask you, hey, I thought we're supposed to look at the building, but how come we didn't see the building? Where is the building? Not wait until the end of the trip, and then suddenly when you ask them about the building, then only, oh, are we supposed to look at the building? Which building? And that's when you are already on the way back to KL. Do you get what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's why it's really important at the beginning of the journey, at the beginning of the semester, you must be so clear about the CLO, and the students must also be clear. And if along the way they are lost and all, they will be able to know that they are lost. I'm supposed to look for a building and not something else. So if they are lost, they know how to reach out and ask for help. Okay, and not wait till the end of the semester, and that's too late for you and for the students. Yeah. Okay. Right. So let's move on to writing learning outcomes. So which PLO does the course map to? What do you want the students to be able to do upon completion of the course? These are some questions that you need to be well aware. So first thing is you need to know the PLO of the program, and you need to understand this course is actually mapped to which particular PLO. There was an exercise that was done like I think maybe sometime last year that involved all schools, all programs, where the academics are required to put into a table to say that this course maps into which one and so on. I'm not sure how many of you were involved in the exercise, but if
Table
you, pardon?
Is it table 4?
No, it's not table 4. It's just another table that we have created to ask the academic team to. I'm not sure whether you are involved or not, but the heads and the PLs were tasked to do the mapping and to see how does the course go into the PLOs and also the graduate attributes. Graduate attributes. In your table 4, yes, there is also the PLO and the mapping, right? Yeah, that's right. You also have that. But last year we did an exercise where we also put in the graduate attributes. We have graduate attributes, right?
This one not involved. I didn't know.
Not involved, yeah. Maybe some of you. but we have our graduate attributes as well, which is closely linked to the PLOs also. The graduate attributes, you can find it in the website, our UW website. Okay, right?
Okay.
So it's not just only attaining your course outcomes, but basically also as a whole, when they graduate, what they're able to do. Okay, so when we talk about all this, you mentioned this now, your table 4, your course document, that's the very important document for OBE. At program level and also course level, you have a whole book, thick book on that, right? So all this information, they are contained there. Yeah. Okay. So you have your course objectives, synopsis, your course learning outcomes, which is the thing that we're talking about, and also the delivery methods that is stated there, assessment methods, course syllabus, your student learning time. So all these are clearly stated, and when you start, when you are given the course, assigned a course to teach, the first thing is to look at the table 4 and look at all these things, and then deliver the course according to the document. And like I mentioned just now, you think that something is wrong, then you should propose for a review for some changes. Okay, I understand in UG you recently just did an overhaul of all your documents for the compliance audit, right? Am I right? Are you involved? Are you aware?
I think it's on the PL level.
Yeah,
Pardon?
I'm not involved.
It's on the PL level.
Oh, so the PL did all the revision, didn't involve the academic staff.
They did, but mostly it was just written by the PL on my, but based on my experience.
Okay.
We did
Alright.
get all the staff to contribute things like do you want to update your learning outcome, your references, your syllabus and all that.
Yeah, but our school, we did it actually based on the cluster. So basically it's like divided into like marketing and all this cluster, and then the person would be in charge, and then there will be like other lectures will be helping, like a group of lectures helping, but there will be a team leader and all that, and then eventually pass it back to the ADH, Mrs. Zaki and all that. Yeah, so
Okay, all right, cool. So I believe you have all looked at the, used the latest template where it's really clearly written. You have synchronous and asynchronous portion, right? And then there is the student learning time, which typically, last time whenever we talk about student learning time, is always very focused on, that was like, pre-COVID days where very focused on face-to-face learning time as a classroom. But with the revision in the table 4, you see that now there is a column where you can put in to talk about your asynchronous part as well. So
yeah.
Student learning time is not just about the time students see you face-to-face kind of thing, yeah. So it's also the time they spend on doing the asynchronous activities and also for their own independent learning. Okay, yeah, right. So I don't think I need to show you sample of the MQA document because you all have just done that compliance audit, so I'm sure you are aware of the changes. Okay, so I'm just going to move on and skip. So a learning outcome, I just do a refresh of what we have talked about just now before the break. A learning outcome is a statement that describes clearly what learners are able to do after a period of learning. Okay, you remember this, yeah? What learners are able to do after a period of learning. After I got COVID, right, I noticed that my throat, I tend to get all this like discomfort. I talk from
Constantly irritated, right? Yes.
Yeah, it's, last time I don't have this kind of problem, but nowadays it's always like, after I talk about an hour and I can feel like my voice is like slowly changing.
Yeah.
Like I'm having this like discomfort in my throat. So I'm so sorry.
You want to drink some water now or not?
I did actually. I have some
Okay.
water, but it just keeps coming. And I think maybe it's the aircon as well. Did everyone get COVID? I think it's more of a life that you get that you didn't get now. Oh, okay. So these are some examples that I have here, which I also gave you earlier. So always remember when you stage your course learning outcomes, there must be a period of learning and there must be what the students are able to do. Okay, so period of learning, like I said, is after a lecture, after a lab session, after a workshop, after completing a semester, or even upon graduation. So when I talk about learning outcomes here, it need not necessarily just refer to course learning outcome. You can also be talking about program learning outcome. But of course, later on, the activity when we are doing the writing of the learning outcomes, we are focusing on course learning outcomes and or lesson learning outcome. Okay. So just to recall, you and also for the benefit of anyone who probably missed out just now, yeah, we talk about demonstrating what kind of or what level of knowledge, and can you remember what is it that we are referring to? When we talk about what kind or what level of knowledge, what are we referring to? The Bloom's taxonomy, yes, but we are referring to the cognitive, okay, thinking. Okay, then when we talk about what type of skills, we are actually referring to the psychomotor, that's right. And if we talk about exhibiting what sort of behavior or attitude, that would be affective, that's right. Okay, so now tell me, what are the 3 domains of learning? Okay, can you scan the code here? I can also put the link. Give me a minute to copy the link. Okay, you can, this is a different link from this number. Okay. Okay. Right. So the 3 domains of learning are what we have said there just now: the cognitive, the psychomotor, and the affective. Always remember these 3. You might find that in some programs, there is a focus on maybe cognitive more than psychomotor and affective. In some courses, you might have a mixture of cognitive and psychomotor. In some, maybe just only cognitive, or some just only affective. It can happen that way. Okay. So since you said that you have done the new table 4 and all, you also notice that now you need to specify which one they are. Right? When you write a CLO, you need to specify which domains of learning. Okay. Right. Going back here to the slides. Okay, so everyone is still with me, yeah? We are not lost.
Yes.
Okay, so domains of learning. So what is cognitive? Like I said, cognitive is just really about your thinking skills, your problem solving skills. This is about getting students to solve problems. Think about it, and usually you ask them like final exam, it's kind of testing cognitive skills. Okay. You have also the psychomotor skills, which are things that you want students to do with their hands. Okay. So in terms of classroom experience, students will be doing a lot of like culinary art. You will be asking them to cook. If it's a design, you will get them to draw. These are all very psychomotor. Okay. And affective is about developing themselves interpersonally, emotionally. Okay, giving them self-confidence. So this is achieved through project works such as the ones in the MPU courses like teamwork and community, global social responsibility, as well as the English, common English courses. So this falls into the effective skills, right? Do you see your course being more effective, cognitive, or psychomotor? Anyone of you?
I think theory subjects usually more on the cognitive one. I think maybe culinary more on the psychomotor.
Yeah. Anyone with a lot of effective skills in your course? No answer.
Maybe those
Generally,
nursing, maybe those
Somehow it is
nursing
yes.
yes.
It is
Maybe those-
yes. Somehow lah. Maybe like through the activities and class activities, maybe like presentations, group work, maybe.
Yes, you might be developing the effective skills as well, but that really depends whether you are writing that as your CLOs or not.
Yeah.
Yes, Mahathir, that's why we have the MPUs. Yes, the MPUs are the ones that will be more focused on effective skills. The rest of the more of the core content-based courses, they are generally more cognitive and psychomotor. Just like I mentioned just now, don't be surprised that your courses are just cognitive and psychomotor. But then in your program learning outcome, you do have that, the communication skills and all, which are supported by the MPU courses. Okay, so you still have them. Your students still has the what you call the skills or knowledge or the effective skills that they need. Okay, now what about the taxonomies that we use for these different domains of learning? Do you know that? Okay, as I said, you have professional development courses to achieve the skills. Yeah, that's good. So do you know the domains? Do you know the taxonomies that we use for these domains? Any idea? Just now, Mahathir, you mentioned Bloom's. Bloom's is actually a taxonomy. See what it means. Okay. So Bloom's is a taxonomy that we use for cognitive skills. What about the other two? What taxonomy?
I think Gable shared something, but we forgot because you used Zoom.
Yeah, I'm sure he did. That's why I'm asking you the question. Right. So the cognitive one, like I said, is to do with the thinking, the brain, is the one that we are very familiar with. That's the Bloom's taxonomy. Okay. So most of our courses are Bloom's taxonomy, except for some culinary and also some design courses. Those will be on psychomotor. That one we use the Simpson's taxonomy. Then we have the effective one, which is generally on, like I said, the self-development, the growth, and all, which are a lot about feelings, we use the Words taxonomy. Okay, right. So all these taxonomies, they have different levels. Yeah. So Bloom's, how many levels do you have? You should be very familiar with Bloom's. How many levels? 5?
I think
6, isn't it?
6.
Six.
6. These are the 6. Okay. 6 levels. So you start with remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, and create. Okay. So this is the Bloom's taxonomy. So when you write your CLO, your LLO, it should fall into any one of these levels here. Okay. One learning outcome to one of this level, yeah. Cannot be one learning outcome fall into 2 levels. If it's 2 levels, means you should be 2 different learning outcomes already. Okay, so this is Bloom's. Now, there are a lot of this information online that you can find, but these are generally some that I find that is quite useful in helping lecturers to design the learning outcomes and eventually think about the class activities and also the assessments that they would like to do. Just a question. Just curious. After you have your learning outcomes already, right? What happens next? You know, in the OBE stage, we have planning your learning outcomes and all, but what happens next usually? Delivery. You think about delivery. So right after you have decided on these are my course learning outcomes, so the next thing you will think about the delivery. Assessments, actually, yes, that's right. Thank you. So right after we have our learning outcomes, although in the OBE stage it says that the next thing is the delivery, then the next thing is the assessments, but we actually plan the assessments before we do the delivery. So the planning there, okay, in the first stage, the planning, it's not only just about planning your learning outcomes. The planning also includes the planning of the assessments and planning of your activities. Okay, but before you can plan for your activities, you need to think about your assessments. How do you want to assess them? Then only you think about what you can do in your classroom, the activities, okay, the tasks that you want your students to do to help them practice and eventually be able to achieve the learning outcomes when you test them. Okay, so I find that this particular table here is rather useful to kind of like sometimes help me as well to think about what am I expecting from the students. Okay, if I want to say that students are at the end of it, they are able to compare A and B, so then I might need to give them probably a test. Okay, but before I can actually give them a test, I might need to do some sort of activities. And this table here, it gives you some ideas of the kind of activities that you can do to help your students achieve this level. Okay, so I find that this table is rather useful if you want to use it in terms of thinking about writing your LOs and what you want them to be able to do eventually. Right. There is also this one which I really like, especially for those of you who are doing final assessments as in the paper-based exam, okay? or rather even if it's online, as in the final assessment that is very cognitive. A lot of times, what we notice is, yeah, the learning outcome says this. Okay, students should be able to analyze blah 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 blah. Okay, and then when we look at the final exam paper, the questions as in the words that are written, the way it is asked, is actually not really analyzing, but it's just more towards asking the students to just explain something, explain the term. So it's very important that when we write our questions in our assessments, which is also highly related to our learning outcomes, how we're writing it, the learning outcomes. If our learning outcomes is expecting them to analyze something, so the questions that we ask should be able to assess that. So I also like this particular one here, where you have like, the questions at the bottom here. You can actually expand but anyway, later I can email you all these things, okay? You can have a look at it to help you and to guide you into how you can write your questions for your assessments or even for your past activities when you prepare this. Okay, so they also have another column here, which is the actions that you are expecting your students to do, and also the outcomes. What kind of product that you want your students to create, yeah, and what actions and how does it map to the action verb for your level goals. Okay, so this is a very comprehensive one. You can use and adapt accordingly to your courses. Okay, right. So I'm just going to share with you all these things so that you have some references later on when you are actually writing your course learning outcomes for a new course, or even think about revising your courses that you have. Now, if you think that something is not quite right about the learning outcomes in the course that you're teaching and you would like to make some revision, so this can be used as sort of like guidance. So this is actually given by MQA. Probably you have seen it before already. It's also a good one to help you to think about the level, okay, in the cognitive domain, and then the words that you use, and then what are the product, okay, that you want the students, the outcome that you want the students to create. So this is somewhat like just now that one, but the only thing missing here is like, the questions that you can use to put into your summaries or even your final exam. Okay, right. So notice that this one is actually quite old, and that's why you see the words that they use here is the old terms of the old Bloom's taxonomy, where synthesis is actually create is C5. Previously it was a C5, then evaluation was a C6. Now we are following the new one, which is level 5 is actually evaluate, level 6 is create. But then again, it's just this part that you need to take note, but this remains the same. It's just the level that is different. Okay, please take note of that. So for those who are using the psychomotor domain, okay, you have perception as level 1, and then set level 2, guided response level 3, mechanism level 4, complex overt response level 5, adaptation level 6, and origination level 7. So these are some of the words that you can use when you write the CLO. Okay, and this is for affective. I'm not going to spend so much time on affective because I know not many of you are with courses with the affective there. Okay, just for your information. All right. So now, consider the 8 MQA domains. Okay, which domain should the CLO cover? Okay, is it knowledge-based, skill-based, or etc.? Okay, this is some advice for you when you write your course learning outcomes. What intended level of understanding of performance? What do you expect them to do? Like, typically, if you are talking about, let's say, foundation level courses, they are more of the Bloom's level 2, 3, and some 4. We talk about the degree program, then you will see that they have a lot of level 5, level 6, not so much of 2 or 3. So you need to understand the level of the program that you're teaching. Okay, you cannot be putting a foundation program and then you have a lot. We do have, or you can have some level 6, but it cannot be the entire program, all the courses has got level 6, everything is a level 6, all the CLO is level 6. That's when students will be overwhelmed. They cannot cope, okay, because the expectation is too high for the level. Vice versa, if it's at the degree level, if you put a lot of level 1, level 2, then you are covering 2 fundamental skills and knowledge, where at the end of it, when they graduate, employers say that they cannot work because they cannot apply the skills, they cannot evaluate what's right or what's wrong or what's you're supposed to do in a certain situation, and they cannot problem solve anything. Okay, right? Then you think about the content, or rather sometimes some of you might think about the topic. Okay, the work is meant to address. As in the work, as in is it describe, explain, analyze, or whatever? Yeah. What is it? The content that you need. And also, what is the context in the discipline in which the work is to be taught? In what context? Okay, so for those who are teaching business, marketing, you have your different kind of context, right? Different kind of businesses, different kind of situations. For those of you teaching culinary arts, you also have different contexts, like it's in a restaurant. Restaurant operation is different from a factory which is doing mass production, or even like catering is doing also kind of like mass production, right? So what kind of context is it that you are looking at? Okay. So the CLO addresses the following: what usable and useful expertise your students should be able to perform. So what particular topic is important, what level to teach, how you're going to teach, and then what activities you're going to use, and of course, how you're going to assess them. Okay, so what are the 3 components of learning outcomes? Do you know? A good learning outcome should have 3 things. What are the 3 things? Anyone?
Just guessing here with the verb.
Okay. Verb. Some more?
Some more thinking.
The rest of you? Measurable. Some more? Measurable.
Specific only like one, not like so many in one learning outcome.
The rest? Still thinking?
Student learning time.
Student learning time. Okay, when I'm talking about when we write the learning outcomes. Yeah. Student learning time, I would say that you're referring to what, the period of learning. One action word per LO. Yes, that's very important. Like I said just now, if you cannot have like I mean, when you have 2 action verbs, then you are actually what we call double verbs. So you're expecting students to do 2 things, especially when it's 2 different levels. That is even worse. Yeah. Okay. What fun is here? Okay. Verb. Just now, Stephanie mentioned verb. That's right. So the first thing is verb. So your LO must have a verb. Okay, you must have verb. Like just now, I show you many verbs already, right? The diagrams. I mean the diagrams that I show you with the circle and all, tables and all. There are so many action verbs there. So you must be able to choose the correct verb, and your LO must have a verb. Okay, verbs like identify, describe, compare. So these are some examples. Identify the 13 states of Malaysia, describe the process of baking an apple pie, compare the strengths and weaknesses of theory X and theory Y. Okay, now, second one is the condition. The context, remember just now I was telling you about context in which the outcome is to occur. So context means is what, how this thing should be done, how. Okay, so let's say you want the students to search for information on the internet. There's so many methods that you can use to search for information, but specifically you would want them to use Google. So that is the context. Okay, similarly, when you ask students to write a report, students can write a report in different style, but typically you just want them to be able to follow the Harvard referencing style. Why is it important to set a condition? Why do you think it's important to set a condition?
To be very specific.
Yeah, and why is it important to be specific?
So they'll know exactly which building to look for.
Very good. So that you know exactly, yeah, that's right. And it's going to be fairly measured. Okay, it's going to be fairly measured because when we talk about this now, you said like measurable, marketing mentioned measurement, which is also the gist of what we are talking about today. Your learning outcome must be written in a way that it is measurable. So if you just write search information on the internet, if students use method A, method B, or context A, context B, context C, then it's going to be very difficult for you to gauge whether they have achieved the outcome or not. Because remember, when we do assessments and all, we also have what we call the rubric, right? Yeah, the rubric. In your rubric, you also specify the different criteria that students need to meet. Okay, so you need to ensure that this is also in the rubric so that everybody is fairly measured, fairly tested. Yeah, using the same thing. So everybody, then you can see that everybody are able to do this particular thing under this condition. Okay, all right. Then the next one is the standard. What are we expecting the standard? Okay, what is considered acceptable level of performance? So you can tell the students to write an essay. The student can write you 50 words, can write you 100 words, can write you 1,000 words, 2,000 words. But what is considered the acceptable level? So you cannot be accepting a student's work of 100 words and you say that it's acceptable, and another student writes you a 1,000 word essay, and that's also acceptable. Definitely, in terms of effort put in and all is different. So you need to also set a standard, a level that is considered acceptable in terms of performance. Okay, so if you talk about forming numeric division, so they can divide, but accurate to how many decimal places? They can divide, but to no decimal places, then that's probably not as accurate as within 2 decimal places. Okay, so you must also state the standard that you are expecting. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to go through some examples of what is considered good learning outcomes with all these verb, condition, and standard. So let's look at this one here. Calculate using something principles, the drop per minute of the micro injury. This is very nursing-based kind of CLO, yeah. So when we talk about the word calculate, that's actually a verb. Okay. Then you have using what principle, and then the drop per minute of the micro intravenous. So that is actually the condition Okay, you want it to be the students to be able to use this principle and they are able to count the drop per minute. Okay, and based on what is the acceptable level of performance? So based on something, that must be a standard that's set. Okay, another example here, the verb in the second one is right. Okay, and the condition is effective course outcomes that include lower and higher order cognitive skills. And what is the standard? For one semester course. So if you just write something that is only for 3 weeks, that's not enough. You know, you can't meet the standard. Okay. So just like any goals that we set, yeah, learning outcomes is actually like setting goals like that. Goal setting. Okay. So we talk about goal setting, we always use the SMART. You know SMART, right? SMART goal setting. It has to be specific and has to be clear. It has to be measurable, and in terms of for us is it should be observable to a certain extent. It must be achievable. Okay, that is why we have a period of learning that. By when they must achieve this. Okay, if you talk about it is something that they can only achieve within a year, and you're asking them to do it within 12 weeks, then it's not achievable, right? Of course, it has to be relevant to whatever course that they are doing. You can't be asking, if let's say a student who is doing a business course, but then you ask them to design a house. That's not quite relevant, yeah. And the time base, which I said, there must be a time limit to it. Okay, a duration. So remember, it is similar to writing any goals, you must follow the SMART. So we have looked at some good ones just now. Okay, what about looking at some bad ones? Okay, I would say bad ones, maybe not so well written. Not so well written ones are when they are not measurable. Something that is very abstract. You cannot measure, okay, like this. At the end of the course, the student should be able to understand the theory of X, should be able to know how to write an effective learning outcomes, appreciate the importance of keeping the environment clean. So how do you measure if the student can understand theory X? Can you measure? Can you measure, understand? How do you know when a student can understand? What? If they can apply the theory, does it mean they understand? Okay, so you say apply the theory, right? If they can apply the theory, so it kind of like implies that they can understand. So instead of saying understand the theory, so you should be saying apply the theory of X, blah, 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 blah. Okay? Yeah. So the word understand is very vague. Does nodding my head like that means that I understand also, right? But how do you measure it? Yeah, it's very subjective, exactly. The words are not measurable. So it's like appreciate the beauty of heritage buildings. How do you measure my appreciation? Yeah, it's so vague, yeah. So you cannot use all these words. You cannot use all these words when you write learning outcomes because they are not measurable. Okay, some words that you should avoid. These are the words, yeah. Do not write all these words in your course learning outcomes and do not use it in your lesson learning outcomes as well. Okay, you might see some of them in objectives. So just now earlier, I asked you, what's the difference between objectives and outcomes? So in some objectives, you can actually use this. The objective of this workshop is so that lecturers can understand the difference between course learning outcomes and lesson learning outcomes. Yeah, that's my objective, because I'm going to teach my participants the difference, and I want them to understand it. But how do I know that they understand it? They will have to explain the difference between course learning outcomes and lesson learning outcomes. You see the difference? Okay, so you can use it in the objectives, but you cannot use them in course learning outcomes, because all these words here, they are not measurable. Okay, so always remember this ukalaf here. For those who are very into writing learning outcomes, you tell them ukalaf, they will know what is ukalaf. Okay, so understand, know, appreciate, learn, aware, familiar, all these are no when it comes to writing learning outcomes. So do remember them, yeah. Do remember them as in words that you cannot use, not use it. Okay, so number 2 is they are too general and in a way ambiguous then, like this. By the end of the course, students should be able to use the computer. Use the computer for what? Right? Make presentations. What kind of presentations? Yeah. Comment on designs. What kind of designs? Cake design, building design, room design, course design, so many things, right? And design research, such a huge thing, research. There's so many types of research. So what is it? So these are too general. And when it's too general, you will find it's too ambiguous. When it's too ambiguous, you will find that you're going to have a hard time deciding on your assessment. And also then that will make your teaching and learning activities very messy. Okay, right? So some examples of poor LO here, you have 2. I'd like you to think about how can you improve them. Students will be able to perform research and students will be able to swim. How can you improve them? You can turn on your mic to say it, or you can type it into the chat.
For the first one, do the suggestions maybe can be more specific.
Okay, so how do we write it? You can give example.
You want it 1 sentence only, is it?
Yes, it should be just 1 unit. Students will be able to do.
If it's perform, if I say conduct research, able to conduct research is also quite ambiguous.
Think about what kind of research. Remember, you need to have the work, you need to have the condition, and you need to have the standard. The rest of you, any suggestions? No suggestions? Or you're too hungry already? It's almost 12 o'clock. Go for lunch. I was told the other day in Eugene, usually staff here in England, they have lunch very early. Is that true for you, all of you? Anyone? Students will be able to perform research. So how do you make it better?
Maybe we can specify that the students will be able to perform quantitative and qualitative research after one semester. You have to have that time, right?
Yep. At the end of the semester, students will be able to perform quantitative and qualitative research. In what context? Okay, Mahariza, you want to? Stephanie also conduct research using previous database. Okay, students will be able to develop a constructive research on hospitality industry. Okay, yeah, I like that you have specified hospitality industry. Yeah, so there must be a context. So this is just an example here. Okay, students will be able to perform research on a given topic for sources within 5 most recent years using the internet. Okay, of course, at the end, actually I should write at the end of the semester, students should be able to. Okay, what about the second one? Students will be able to swim. Swim. What kind of swimming is considered swim? Swim like a dog style, doggy style, and at the end of the semester, you can master all swimming skills. Wow. Students will be able to swim in butterfly style. Yeah. Then you need to specify, better to specify what style. Like I said, I can swim, but I swim like a dog. Still swimming, okay? That's my style. All right. Students will be able to identify the types of swimming style, okay? Right. So you can also make it more specific. Students will be able to swim 50 meters in the swimming pool using the butterfly stroke. Okay, right, let's move on to the next one. Yeah. Okay. What about this one? Students will demonstrate knowledge of the work of nursing theories for self-care and including the activities of daily living. How can you revise that? Any nursing lecturers would be able. Okay, maybe I should skip this one since I don't have any nursing lecturers would be. Let's skip this, yeah. But anyway, I just show you. Okay, students will be able to explain the theoretical basis of nursing theories in relation to self-care and activities of daily living. Okay, so actually the better word is to say explain rather than just say demonstrate, because demonstrate knowledge can be demonstrated in many different ways. Okay, let's look at another one. Students will understand how to use technology effectively. Okay, try this one. Can you write better LO for this? Remember what I said about the word understand? Understand is very big, yeah? Okay, anybody? How can you rewrite it? Okay, apply. PowerPoint. If it is PowerPoint, is it or something? Students will be able to apply. Okay. So students will be able to apply technology effectively. In what? Apply technology is quite broad also. Okay, how about in your own context? Do you see any way that students can apply technology in your own course or in your own discipline? So this is like under the PLO on digital skills, digital and numeracy skills. Write 300 words using Word. Okay, yeah, okay, and so. So this is a suggestion here. Students will be able to apply what is the technology that want them to use, the word processing, spreadsheets, databases, and presentation graphics in preparing for their final research project and report. Okay. So in terms of just saying technology, because technology is so broad, right? So basically here, if you are saying that you want them to be able to create a project, a portfolio, or a report using all these technology skills, which is word processing, spreadsheet if they need to do Excel or databases, and also presenting it using PowerPoint and so on. Okay. Another one, students will develop an appreciation of cultural diversity in the workplace. Can you rewrite that? Remember, appreciation is a word that is a no-no also when writing CROs. So how can we replace that? What? Instead of saying develop an appreciation or appreciate, what can we say? No idea, because all of you don't have this effective skills in your course. Okay, let me just help you. Okay, you can actually, because I know a lot of you are not teaching all those degree courses and developing them. So in terms of like, if you are talking about the diplomas, right, and you want them to write it out or something, you can say students will be able to summarize in writing their feelings about cultural diversity in the workplace. So I also know that sometimes it's rather difficult to measure the effective skills. It's not easy to every time ask students to carry out an event, do a project and all this, and even if you do that also, sometimes it's not so easy to gauge. So at the end of it, students are expected to develop a reflection report. So in a way, that's when we ask them to talk about their feelings. So they need to write their feelings about it. Okay? Yeah. Improve interpersonal skills. So if you say improve, then again, it's quite hard to measure. How do you measure improvement? Okay. See, what about this? Understand the economic environment on business and nursing. Okay, business lecturers, how can you make it better? Understand. Is that a good word? Understand. How can we change the word understand? Look at the Bloom's taxonomy. What word can we use to replace understand? You think of another word? Describe, okay, examine or identify. Okay, good, right? So you can say describe or analyze. Students will be able to analyze the impacts of the economic environment on nursing as a business entity. Okay. Next one, students will be able to know the 7 steps of the research process. Will be able to know, which is a good word. Able to list, yes. Okay, we try. Able to list, able to describe. Okay. Right. The student will understand the importance of cell growth and reproduction. So what can you do with this one? You'll understand. Okay, express. And how would you want them to express? How are you going to express it to you? In writing, okay. So again, you can say students will be able to make it more specific and describe, okay. Evaluate, all right, also. Okay. Right. This is your last activity. So I'm going to put you into your breakout rooms again. Yeah. So I'd like you to look at all these learning outcomes here. They are considered not so well written. Okay, there are 6 here. In your group, discuss why they are not well written, what's wrong with it. Is it something wrong with the verb? Something wrong with the condition or the standard? Okay, and then we write them. Okay, so I'll give you 10 minutes in your group. Yeah, so one of you can be the one who is a scriber, maybe put it into a PowerPoint and then you share your screen afterwards, your revision of the LOs. Okay.
Michelle, I have a question. Okay, let's say when we develop the CLO, right? Can we like come up with like a question? For example, like student were able to demonstrate how, for example, can we have that the question verbs like how, for example, in the learning outcome, for example?
Demonstrate. For example, students will demonstrate how to cook pasta.
How to, for example, I like that. Demonstrate how, like the question there.
Okay. That's not really advisable. It's not really advisable to do that. Actually, the word how there is not exactly a question, but it's more of like I think a better way of saying it is the method, the way, or the steps, right? Instead of saying demonstrate how to, or you can say demonstrate the steps or the method. That would be more specific and there's no ambiguity.
Okay, right. Thank you.
Any other questions? Any questions? No? No questions? Okay, so maybe somebody just screenshot this picture, okay? And then I'm going to send you into your breakout rooms again. So like I said, one of you be the scriber so that you can prepare your revised learning outcomes into PowerPoint or you can use any other platforms if you want or other applications if you want. And then just later on, share your screen with us so that it's easier for discussion. Okay? Can? So I give you 10 minutes, right? So let's go back to.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to open the room again.
She was Antian. Actually, very
prototype, or maybe to describe a human prototype with a 60K word research paper. Okay.
Actually, it's human-like robot. I didn't type the whatever it is. I just copied the same sentence.
Because there is two action word here, run and create. So how we want to combine these two, run and create.
Yeah, I was just thinking using produce, combine the write and also the create.
Produce a human robot prototype. And 60K words together, yeah.
And do research paper kan, so it's very specific. 60,000 words research paper.
Okay. Number 4, that one, agree, ah? Number 4, that one. To explain, am I right? Explain. Number 5, to ever tackle.
I think what the question is asking is so that we further explain the concepts or the application on paper, because the developing part is already suitable.
Is there?
Mm.
Develop. But I think that because this here is concept more efficiently on paper, so the verb of develop doesn't sound
No, that's true. So,
match with that concept.
yeah, maybe they can list down or articulate their concepts or explain. Can use a simple word. So, because how do you measure development?
Yeah,
Yeah.
or elaborate maybe. Students will be
Elaborate.
able to
Okay.
elaborate. We use different. Elaborate.
Is it enough
Elaborate.
on paper, or do we need to elaborate on that as well?
This meeting is being recorded.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I hope you have completed your discussion.
Completed, but okay, just very brief lah.
Okay, no worries. It's just a practice, just an activity for you to kind of like think about, the things that we have talked about this morning. Okay, shall we have room 2 to share first?
Okay, one moment. Where is it?
Oh, wow.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
So this is our outcome after 10 minutes of discussion. Okay, so the first one, we will change it to students will be able to explain the marketing needs. So explain is the verb, and then to be specific about marketing is the marketing needs. Okay, and then second one, we will change it to demonstration, 7 steps of cooking pasta within 10 minutes. Specific. And the third one, develop. Students will be able to develop a research paper on the topic of human-like robot, because in that third sentences now, we have like to know how to write a research paper and create a human. So we just combine it together. And then number 4 would be elaborate the concepts in writing. Number 5, students will be able to analyze related food and beverage aspects and issues, which is to analyze. And then last but not least, explain, able to explain Newton's law. That is the last one. We have few seconds, even 2 seconds to discuss on this. Okay, that's it.
So maybe you want to specify more clearly for number 4 what concepts. I know in the question that was given is like just concepts, yeah, because it's like very big. So you can like put in like what concept. Okay.
Understood.
All right. Well done. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Stop share.
Okay. Room 1.
Okay, hello. I don't have the slides to to share. I just verbally giving my our answer. Okay, number one is change list. Okay, student be able to list the 3 principles of marketing.
Okay.
Okay, number 2, student be able to demonstrate the steps to cook pasta.
Okay.
Okay, number 3, student able to produce a human prototype with a research paper.
Human will be able to produce a
human prototype.
Or human prototype.
Like robot, that one, we change that one.
Okay.
The research paper, because you need to write as well, but you try to combine it too. And research paper.
So you mean to say that they need to
produce.
They need to have the prototype and they need to have the research paper.
Yes.
I would suggest if that's the case, you break it into 2 different CLOs. Because the students may be able to produce the research paper but not the prototype, and vice versa. Yeah. So that's when you might you might find it difficult to evaluate whether the students achieved or did not achieve the CLO. It's somewhat like when you have this double barrel, as in 2 action verbs in 1 CLO.
Okay.
Because writing a research paper is one, right? The other one is like you are creating the prototype. That's another one.
Because they have 2 different outcomes.
Different, yeah, 2 different words also. Okay, right. Okay, number 4.
Number 4, one quite, I just try. Student will able to elaborate the concept of marketing. I just give
Students will be able to.
the concept because we didn't have the concept clearly here, so I just create the concept. What concept?
You can create any concept.
That's
Whatever
what I said.
concept.
To elaborate the marketing concept,
Okay.
especially on a paper.
Okay, you can say students will be able to elaborate the marketing concepts in you can even specify in 50 words.
Or maybe in a diagram, something like that.
A diagram also can, yeah.
Diagram. Yes, yes. Okay, that one number 4. Number 5, to discuss the current issue related to FMB service providers.
Okay, okay, discuss.
Yeah,
all right.
Right, all combined. So the last one, to explain the details on the Newton's law.
Okay, so
to
you
explain
can
the
actually
Newton's law.
say just to explain Newton's law also.
Yeah, the Newton's law, yes.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. Well done, everyone. Okay, so I know it wasn't easy because some of the things are not really in your field of expertise, so it's a bit hard to like gauge what is it, right? Yeah. So, good job. Well done. Okay. Most importantly is you understand that there are some words where you know you're not supposed to use, and you know how to find a replacement for it. Okay, so I'm going to wrap up the session now to just note on some important things that we usually identify when we look at the table 4 in terms of how the CLOs are written. Okay, first thing is you need to remember that it's not compulsory for every CLO to have 3 learning domains. Like I mentioned just now, it's not quite possible to have cognitive, affective, and psychomotor all rolled into one, yeah? So just one will do. Some courses are typically more cognitive, okay? Some courses are typically more psychomotor. Sometimes you can have maybe 2 cognitive and 1 psychomotor CLO in one course. It is possible, but you don't usually have 1 CLO and then you have cognitive, psychomotor, affective, everything all rolled into one. Okay, right? So do take note that you don't need to put all here in. You just choose one or 2. Okay, just one or 2. There's C2, that's it, and then that's the PLO that is aligned to. Okay. Next one is achievements of lots, as in the lower order thinking skills and the higher order thinking skills has to be differentiated. But the lots has to be achieved before achieving POTS. Meaning to say, if you have, when you write it in your table 4, you have CLO1, explain the basic principles of immunization, then CLO2, solve problems related to immunization. So you put CLO1, which is the lower order first, then only CLO2, which is the higher order. You don't put CLO1, solve problems related to immunization, then only CLO2 explain. Okay, it should be it should be differentiated, and it should go in the order of low to high. Okay, you don't start by saying, okay, CLO1, create something, and then CLO3, students are going to list blah blah blah. So it should be the list one first, then only after that is create. Okay. The third thing is it is not compulsory for every CLO to have all 3 components, which is the, remember just now, the verb, the condition,
and
standard. Okay. So you don't need to have all three. Sometimes it's not quite possible to have all these three elements inside, but you must have the verb. Definitely the verb must be there. Yeah? If not, it's like, because we're talking about what students can do, right? If you don't have the verb, then it doesn't make sense anymore. But you can have the verb plus the condition, or the verb and the standard. All right. So like this, design a curriculum based on the MQF and LJM standard, that's the verb and the condition. Or design a Bachelor in Nursing curriculum meeting complete MQF and LJM requirement, which you have the verb, the condition, and the standard. Right? Generally, most of the time, our CLOs are only just verb, condition, or verb, standard. Quite rarely we have verb, condition, and standard all at the same time in terms of cost and outcomes. Okay, cannot have two words in the same domain. Example, state and explain the basic principles of blah, blah, blah. You only need to use the highest level. So just the word explain will do, because when a student can explain means that the students can state if you were to test that. You just take the higher level. Okay, like this, state, define, explain, no need. Just write, explain, that's it. Okay. So let's recap what we have done today. We talked about designing learning outcomes, and I asked you who are involved in terms of designing outcomes. So we talk about MQF domains, external stakeholders' needs, professional bodies. If you are tied to one, then you have your faculty expertise, and also the vision of the institution and of the school. From there, you will get your program outcomes, and then you will have the course outcomes, and that will lead you to your lesson learning outcomes. But in terms of when you are helping students to attain the learning outcomes, you start with your lesson learning outcomes. And from there, if they can achieve your lesson learning outcome, they should be able to achieve your course learning outcomes at the end of the semester. And upon having achieved the course outcomes for a few courses or all the courses required in the program, they will achieve the program outcomes. So when we look at the student and when we look at outcome-based assessments, how does it help the student? It is when you design all these learning outcomes and you align all of this by looking at the program outcomes, the course outcomes, and the students' outcomes, and then at the assessments. That's when you are able to say that, okay, the student does meet the program outcome. By the time they graduate, they are ready for the workforce. Okay? Right? So at the end of the day, the focus is on the students. We are all looking at what the students can do, not what we can do, but what we can do to help the students do what they are supposed to do. So just a reminder, good learning outcomes should have three things: the action verb, which is the most important one, the condition, and the standard. But you may not necessarily have all three in one, but you must have the action verb plus the condition, or the action verb plus the standard. Now, lastly, how does the learning outcome help lecturers? How does it help you? We spend like a whole morning talking about learning outcomes, and I'm very sure Gabriel has also been telling you about learning outcomes. Learning outcomes are so important. How does it help you actually?
Help us to create the assessment.
Yes.
Measurable assessment.
Okay. And then some more? Help you to create assessment, some more? What else does it do?
Plan your teaching and learning.
Yes, it helps you to plan your learning activities, right? That's right. So it gives you a clarity of purpose and focus. Where are you heading? Like I gave you the example of, finding the building, and when you take your students to Penang for a tour. It helps you to plan the curriculum to support your outcome. Helps you to select appropriate teaching and learning methods. If you are expecting the student to be able to create a project at the end of the semester. Then your whatever teaching and learning methods that you use must be highly, aligned to that. You might be doing a lot of project-based or problem-based kind of activities in the classroom. You won't be expecting them to sit down and listen to you talk and talk and talk. And then after that, okay, class, now at the end of the semester, I'm going to create this project. Like, they have not done any group discussion level before, but now they have, as a group, they have produced a project. So that's quite demanding for them. Okay, so in a way, it helps you to think about your teaching and learning methods. And of course, like you mentioned, it helps you to design your assessment methods as well. And at the end of it, evaluate whether your learning outcomes are achieved and do your continuous improvement. Remember the OBE stage, that cycle that you need to go through. At the end of the semester, you have your exam report or your assessment report, and then you have your end of semester report. Okay, which you have to write what you did this semester, what was the achievement of the course learning outcomes, and then after that, there's one part where you can talk about recommendation for the next semester. So what can you do better next semester? Okay. Now, how does it help the student? It helps you to design your learning activities. It helps you to design your assessment, helps you to review and reflect, but how does it help the student? Andy? They know exactly what is expected of them. Yes, they know the expectation level. They know how hard they have to work, or they know that they don't have to work so hard. Okay, yeah, they know what outcomes are expected of them. They know what level of expected mastery is it. Are we looking at only this is only asking us to apply the knowledge, yeah, or apply the skills. We are not expected to create something. Or, oh no, this course at the end we have to produce a robot, okay, or produce a prototype at least. So that will know what is the level of the difficulty. They will also know when they have achieved the outcomes or not. I shared with you just now the example. They reach Penang, yeah, all they see is char kway teow, nasi kandar, and all. But they are supposed to see the Comta building and study the structure of it. But you know, if they didn't know that they are supposed to do that, then they wouldn't know that they are supposed to look at the building and start looking at something else. Because all they know is they need to go to Penang. They didn't know that they have to look at Comta. So if they are aware of the learning outcomes, then they will know what they're supposed to look at. And if they cannot find the thing that they're supposed to look at, they will look for help. They will come and ask you, please help. Okay? Employ appropriate learning strategies to achieve the outcome. So if they know that, okay, this particular course requires me to write an essay of blah, 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 blah. So, okay, then they know. I'm expected to write an essay, so my writing skills is not so good. So I think I better think about how I can improve it, what kind of learning strategies I need to employ in order for me to be able to do that particular piece of work that my lecturer wants to do. Okay, so that helps the students to learn better too. So, how should we teach? If we agree and support OBE, how should we teach in order to help students achieve their level? What do you think? Do you think OBE is a good model? Do you think this model will help our learners better to future-proof them? Why years? Is it something that is good for the students? Yes, you think so? So if you agree with this, then how do you think we should teach in order to help them? What should we do? Seems like a difficult question at lunch hour. Anyone want to share your thoughts?
We have a different assessment.
Pardon?
It's like, I don't know, just give a try. We have a variety of assessment. For example, that make them participate in class, like formative and, quizzes, and then we also have the formative, how to assess and achieve the learning outcome. So this is a two area of how we can make sure that we can teach them in terms of this learning outcome. Yes.
Good try, yeah. So basically, I think what you're saying is you need to constantly check and see whether students are following on. So formative assessments, I think Gabriel has also shared quite a few times with you all on formative assessments. So I think some of the misconception is we only test the students when it's graded. Some parts of our formative assessments are graded, but in addition to the graded formative assessments, we should also think about formative assessments which are just meant for checking if they are learning and also checking for their learning. So these assessments are set up to help them know how much they have learned and how much they still need to learn. Sort of like checkpoints, So like I said just now, if like I was sharing with you, driving my students, telling my students that, hey, come into my car, we're going to drive to Penang. And along the way, of course, we need to go to the restroom, right? Yeah, take a break and all. If some of my students, they are very adventurous and somewhat don't follow instructions so well, they'll probably go to the restroom, and then we're supposed to meet back in 15 minutes and get back into the car and start driving again, but they didn't come back. So imagine if it's let's say if it's not a car, it's a bus, and it's bus load full of people. So these people, after 15 minutes, I cannot find them. I don't know where they are, start already or what, but I just, I continue on my journey. But with these such students, if along the way, okay, I do have checkpoints. I tell them, hey, see, when you look at this, this is the landmark for wherever we are now. You see the limestones and it's Vera, and then okay, then we have this hiking zoo and whatever, you see a waterfall, we are anywhere, that sort of thing. So if at these checkpoints, you tell them, hey, see, do you see this or not? Can you see this or not? If they are able to see it, okay, all right, we are still on the same journey, we are still together on track. But if along the way you don't have this kind of checkpoints and stop and check, hey, are you still following or not, then they don't know their sesat. Yeah. And sometimes we also, if we are facilitating a large class, we also don't know their sesat. Especially in terms of like teaching online, it's really very hard because you don't see their faces, you don't know their sesat or not also. And when you sometimes call them, ask them questions, you cannot seem to get them, they are not there because a lot of them just log in and they go somewhere else. Okay, so checkpoints, formative assessments, just simple ones to check whether they really understood what was delivered or shared in that particular session is good. Okay, so formative assessments need not just be the ones that are graded, but also the ungraded ones which are meant for just helping them to learn. Yeah, that's right, they facilitate their learning. Okay, in order to achieve the LO at the end of it. Okay, so these were our learning outcomes that we set up this morning. Differentiate between PEO, PLO, CLO, and LLO. So are you able to differentiate it? Yes, no? Are you clear? What is PEO?
program educational outcome.
Objectives, okay, program educational objectives, and how is that different from program learning outcomes? What's the difference between PEO and PLO? One, call names. Yes, Mahathir, 3 to 5 years after graduation. Yeah, okay. So PEO is only when we look at it 3 to 5 years after graduation when they are already employed in workforce. PLO is only upon their graduation after 3 years. That's the PLO. Right? CLO, I'm sure you're very familiar. LO, you know what is it? Yeah. Okay. What are the three domains of learning? Can you remember?
Cognitive, affective, and psychomotor.
Thank you very much. So cognitive is about
The
brain, and what taxonomy?
brain. Psychomotor is physical, hands-on.
Physical, yes.
Affective is the feelings, how you
feel, yeah.
how you bring it outside from your feet.
Okay, right. Thank you. So if you are talking about cognitive, that would be the Bloom's taxonomy that we're using, okay, because it's about a lot of thinking. So what about the psychomotor? What do we use? Simpsons, that's right. Okay. So affective, can you remember? Although I know many of you don't use affective. Ruffle, yeah, that's right. Okay, good. And lastly is to be able to write appropriate learning outcomes. I think you demonstrated that through our last activity just now as a group. And so I have come to the end of the session today. Do you have any questions for me? Any questions?
Yes, Michelle. Can I check with you for the PLO, right? Just now you stated we have 8 PLO.
8 domains.
8 domains, but is that there is a new PLO that is 11?
No, it's not that it's a new one that is 11. It's just that there are some program standards, they want it to be split, like digital and numeracy, they want to split. Okay, so for some, instead of 8, they say split in digital and numeracy, so they have 9. Then after that, the other one, personal and entrepreneurial skills, they also want to split. So personal is one PLO, and then entrepreneurial is another PLO. And then there's another one which is which one? Yeah, there's another one that is split also. Then it becomes the other one is interpersonal and communication skills, this one. So some they asked to split this one. Split this one, numeracy here split, and then entrepreneurial and personal split. So because of that, then it becomes 11. Okay, so but whether to split or not to split, it all goes back to the program and the program standard also. Because as you all know, sometimes N3A when they come and audit and all, there are some panels that they say, no, it must be 11. No, it must be 8. No, it must be 10. So it's best to go back to your program and program standard and also the panel, yeah, to really decide on how many, whether to split or not to split. So Mahathir, yours is divided into 11, the ones that you did. Okay. There are even some programs, I think nursing, diploma in nursing, they don't have entrepreneurial. Okay, that's because nursing is quite special, because it's under the nursing board. The nursing board, they say they don't have that entrepreneurial skills in their program, so everybody doing the diploma in nursing, they don't have that program learning outcome for entrepreneur. One of yours is 9. So you see that different programs will have different. So best is to go back to your program leader or your head to find out what is the updated of the current program learning outcomes for the program that you are assigned to teach. Okay. Any other questions?
Let's say we want to, because it goes back to the teachers lah. How we evaluate the students' ability to, like, for example, our CLO like demonstrate, for example. Okay, so in that particular part goes back to the teachers, how we evaluate the assessment. Should we have like a second examiner or panel? Should this one is applying in this OBE? Like another assessor to assess that kind of outcome, for example, let's say the project based, whereby we need the students to demonstrate, develop something. So we need to have like, the other panels. Should this practice in OBE, for example?
OBE does not really state whether you must have a second examiner or not, but it is stated in our handbook that for any project work, there should be 2 examiners. The reason is because project works are sometimes quite subjective, and that's why we will need another examiner to evaluate the event or whatever project that is being done by the students. So if you look at the new academic staff handbook, it is stated there that if you are running courses like, like the ones that under the MPU, which is the Global Social Responsibility, that's where students are required to organize events for that particular course, there must be 2 examiners for each event that is evaluated. So it's not so much of an OBE thing, but it's more of to ensure that students are fairly evaluated. I hope I answered your question, Raisa.
Yeah, agree. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? No? Okay, cool. So everyone have a good Friday. Enjoy your weekend. It's great having you here today, this morning. I hope I've helped you to learn something this morning, and I hope that you'll find the session useful. Feel free to, write to me, email, if you need any help at all, anytime. Okay? Right, thank you. Thank you for participating. Enjoy your lunch and have a good weekend. Bye. See you soon again.